Hello, welcome back to RPGaDAY2025. We're back with more RPGaDAY2025. This is day 4, all the way through to the next... I've opened up a thing and I've not. Hi, welcome back to RPGaDAY. We're back with more RPGaDAY2025. I was supposed to get this out much sooner, and moving's finally happening, essentially. So that's happening next week, but all the long and complicated but very important legal and that kind of stuff's gone through, which meant I've been very busy with that, so this is later than I expected, so my apologies. This is going to be a bit all over the place, but we're going to take our best crack at it anyway. This is going to be the next 5 days, so that's from day number 4 to day number 8, which is a message, something ancient, a motive, a journey, and explore. We've used some various keywords for these to give us some more idea of what to talk about. I should make sure I am visible. Starting off with day number 4, message, and we got an extra bit confident, which very much sounds like probably a challenge to me. A confident message, that's a challenge. Potentially a plot hook. You get a message from the champion of another god, maybe, who challenges you to a duel to prove whose worship is best. Maybe it's someone from the same deity who believes that their power and their piety, their holiness is better, or unholiness potentially, than yours, and similarly challenges you to a battle of maybe strength, but maybe a holiness, whatever that means. A battle of good deeds or bad deeds could be quite entertaining and have some disastrous consequences. So I think a challenge certainly would make sense as some kind of confident message. What could also be interesting, however, is an anonymous message, something about I'm going to take over this town in the next 3 days. See if you can stop me. And maybe it maybe gives you the details of the town, and that's it. And then some genius mastermind, and you're like, oh shoot, what are they going to do? How do we stop this? How do we figure it out? And you've got a bit of a mystery on your hands to try and solve, and you've got a ticking clock as well. It'll be a fun couple of different messages there, I think. Ancient and where for number 5. Now this is an ancient place, obviously something from long ago, a place that is ancient, long forgotten in the past. I've had a few of these. I've not used any very recently in my currently postponed but soon to start up again very wizardy, sorcery focused campaign. I have one character who reigns from a land of winged elves called Massamel, which is a floating city in the clouds. Very Laputa kind of vibes, or Skypiea sort of, I suppose, but more Laputa in style. And this is kind of like an ancient place that's had time essentially pass it by, and it's just kind of been there off to the side whilst everything else has been going on in the world. So I always like the kind of idea of large cities that are just, time moves on and they kind of remain the same. And it will be very interesting to see what happens when they finally get there. I've got some ideas, but you've got to think about like how what culture has changed, or what culture there was there, and would it have still been the same? Will it have changed? What things would people have now that they wouldn't necessarily have had then? What ties can you have to the character who's, this character's not from there, but they're descended from there, anything they'd recognise? It kind of makes me think of when Aang in Avatar: The Last Airbender goes back to the air temples that have been visited in like 100 years, and what he finds. Obviously, he's from there directly, so it's slightly different, but a similar kind of idea. A bit of I had an easy answer for that one, but again, I'm sort of cheating with this because I am limited on time. Next one is a motive. And the word we got to associate with it is art. So what could this be? Well, you could have something very simple. Someone really likes a piece of art and they hire you to steal it. Easy peasy. But maybe it's something more complicated. Maybe you have a painter who really wants to paint a certain landscape or a certain portrait of a particular beast, but he needs it subdued for long enough that he can manage it. Or if it's a landscape, maybe it's a really dangerous place, maybe it's a dragon's hoard or something, and he's like, hey, can I employ you to go distract this dragon or this beholder from its lair for a while whilst I come in and paint it and have a nice little time? Just a really eccentric painter who loves painting really dangerous things. That could be quite interesting. That could be quite a lot of fun, I think. Number 7 is a journey, and how to journey. Interesting. Obviously, journey is a large part of TTRPGs. Not necessarily all of the time, but lots of them have a lot of travelling. Or sometimes we skip over the travelling because it's not that relevant, and it's more about the destination. So making the journey part of it and deciding how seems quite important. Potentially maybe this is a journey that's going to be very difficult. It's going to be across a long piece of terrain that is incredibly treacherous, and so it's not something you can easily skip because you've got a lot going on that you need to kind of keep an eye on. It could be the kind of situation where you've got to actually, for one of the few times, at least for some of my games anyway, keep track of rations and water because there's not a lot, and you've got to keep an eye on the places where you can get more. There was a period in the history of one of the kind of places that I've built where a group of people left a town that was being attacked and traversed this undead mesa, so-called, because it's a mesa, and there's lots of undead there, and who was able to survive and how they survived and who got to the other side and how they did that. So something like that could be quite interesting, where it's a journey, and the journey in itself is the adventure in the situation because of the survival element and how you manage that. What can you do to help increase your chances and things like that? Or maybe it's somewhere really obscure they need to get to, and it's more again a mystery of, well, literally, how do we get there? It's not a when do we get there or what do we do to get there. It's we don't know how to get there, and we need to figure that out ourselves. Maybe there's some ancient scrolls that tell of certain magics that could be used, and you have to try and search and find the right spells, and then it's like, well, where's the location? Can we use this map which has these like embellishments on the sides to try and denote where this map is from, to figure out where the location is, and stuff like that. So another kind of interesting mystery to figure out how to get to a location. Quite like that one. And then finally for today with number 8, Explore and Nostalgic, which I think weirdly enough with number 5, Ancient and Rare, we kind of already sort of tackled some of this. But like we said, for that it wouldn't be quite as nostalgic because it's not necessarily them who was from this floating city, this elf. But a similar idea, I think. If you have a character who has enough backstory and a very important place in their past, what can you use from that to, well, yeah, go into their past? Could you go back to their town or their childhood home, get them to give you in some past, some features, some things that might be there that they could find, and you could use this for flashbacks and stuff like that as well, potentially quite well. Alternatively, you do something towards the end of a campaign that harkens back to the start. Maybe you have a contact, an NPC, who knows, probably some goblin or something like that, who was one of the first contacts the party made, who comes back asking for, one more favour. Maybe it's the old man who they helped, rescue his town, come visit them again asking for one final request. Some kind of idea like that. Maybe one of the villagers, or, the first dungeon that they delved into, it turns out, is actually where the main boss or the kind of big bad evil guy is in this world, and so they have to go back to this dungeon that they cleared many months ago, or potentially years in game, out of game even, and they kind of go through, and the traps and things are still there. Maybe some monsters have come back, and you have this kind of nostalgic element as you are cutting through these rather easy monsters to get down to deal with this final battle. That could be fun. It would be a good idea, I think. There we go. That's RPGA Day 2025. The next 5 days, all over the place, I know. I'm sorry about that. But like I said, life is a mess, and there's a lot going on. What have you done for RPGA Day 2025? Let me know down in the comments if you have done any of these, and what prompts you came up with and what answers you gave. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.